Alright, what's up you guys? Robert Wilkenbrod here, talking more movies. Yeah, we are talking about something that's not exactly new, but not old, and just because there's not a lot coming out right now, we're talking about Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, which recently came out on digital, and I would assume it's going to get made available on Disney Plus sometime in the near future. So, this film came out in December 2019, ending the long-running Skywalker saga, so they say. It is the ninth film, and it's directed by JJ Abrams, starring the same cast and crew as the previous two films in 2015 and 2017. And it takes you through not exactly the quote-unquote end for everyone involved, but their new beginning, if you want to say. At least we find it out at the very end. The Rise of Skywalker, it's not very good. Not terrible. I had a good time seeing it. I've seen it twice. I had a good time with it. It was fun. But is it a critically acclaimed Star Wars movie? No. Was The Force Awakens better? Yes. The Last Jedi, I don't know. That's kind of a toss-up, at least for me. I know there's conflicted feelings on The Last Jedi, but The Rise of Skywalker was kind of all over the place, which we'll get into here, because there were plot holes galore all over the place here, and I'm just going to list off just some of them here, and I'm sure you could probably pick up on other ones that there were. The Emperor returns without explanation. Why was Palpatine growing extra Snokes? Poe Dameron's entire backstory beyond being a spice runner. How did Zori Bliss survive even though her planet was destroyed and she gave away her only token of getting off her planet? And among others, we find out that these plot points were solved in post-movie works of media, including books and other, I believe, comic books that were put out that explain these plot holes, which is very frustrating. You don't know if that's a planned thing or if they noticed after the fact, but we get things like that Palpatine version being a clone. We find it out in one of the post-movie works of media, which is... That would be nice to know. That would be nice to know because it seemed like he died through that shaft in episode 6. At least we thought, and I guess he did, because they're just like that. He gets cloned. We don't know how he gets cloned, but he got cloned. Well, I'm sure the thing hopefully explains it, but it's still very weird how many plot points were left out of the actual movie, and if that was by design to make people buy these comic books or whatever, I don't love that. I don't particularly love that. You should be getting the full explanation in the movie, and sure, not everything's going to be perfect with plot holes and plot points, but when there are a laundry list, even beyond what I just mentioned, for The Rise of Skywalker, it's a little frustrating. Now, beyond the plot holes, there are also some weird aspects of this movie, including the constant death fake-outs, which we first saw with Chewbacca, when there was somehow a second ship that nobody realized. So Chewbacca was able to make it off alive. I thought he died. They sold it off really well, but the explanation for it was quite stupid. We also had quite a few death fake-outs for Kylo Ren, thinking he gets thrown off, like, let's say, a cliff in the final scene, or anything involved in that final battle, including when he gets stabbed with the lightsaber, and then he gets recovered by Rey with her force powers, with the force healing. You get that. You figured he was going to die. You get it at the very end when you think Rey is going to die. And these death fake-outs, they're just all over the place in The Rise of Skywalker. A little frustrating, kind of funny. That's why I put this under a weird category. Another weird thing was a little bit of a plot hole, so that we actually find out in interviews after the Rise of Skywalker came out, what did Finn want to tell Rey? We hear this going on throughout the film, and it never gets answered. really? We get so often that to the point where we think Finn wants to express his love for Rey. We think it could be a variety of things, but you get the hint with it at times, and it turned out to be afterwards, and again, these post-movie interviews, that Finn thought he was force sensitive. Now, watching the movie back a second time, you see it a little bit, but only the fact that you get told it after the movie ends, because I didn't realize it the first time. Maybe some of you did, but I didn't realize that the first time. And I think that's a problem, because I'm going to assume I'm not the only one, and I'm going to assume there are thousands, if not millions, of more people like me who did not realize it at first. There's also falling under this weird category is C-3PO's sacrifice, so he can use his memory function or brain to translate this dark Sith text, and he's not able to do that unless his memory function is altered with, and if that would happen, his memory would get erased. It makes it sound like this is the end of C-3PO as we know him, but by the end of the film, his memory gets fully recovered. Another thing too, which was really bothersome to me, was the Knights of Ren. We had the Knights of Ren shown off in The Force Awakens, and they looked like this badass group that kind of mysterious. We didn't really learn anything about them, and we figured The Last Jedi would show something with them, but no. And then once JJ Abrams announced that the Knights of Ren were going to be in the Rise of Skywalker, it seemed pretty cool. It seemed awesome. But instead they became these no-face people who we just know nothing about except for just goons to be killed off by Kylo himself near the end of the film. And they were just a waste of space, essentially. And they were also kind of funny. And I believe they even became a meme too for a little while on Twitter. Yeah, so maybe we'll look back on them a little better years down the line when we're rewatching The Rise of Skywalker. But right now, no. They're jokes. They're big, gigantic jokes. And mentioned The Last Jedi a few times too, falling under the weird category, is almost everything from The Last Jedi was undone in The Rise of Skywalker, including Kelly Marie Tran's character, which was pretty much sidelined. The Rey's parent backstory, when we were told that they were nobodies, instead that she had the bloodline of Palpatine. Just yet, everything from The Last Jedi was pretty much undone, including how anyone could maybe have the Force inside them, including that boy at the end. We got the boy with the broom at the end of The Last Jedi. We got no sighting of that whatsoever. I mean, maybe a little bit with Finn, but not anything that was actually exposed, which was kind of frustrating too. And it made The Last Jedi, which, yeah, it got a lot of criticism, but it got a lot of praise too from people with how divisive it was. It made the entire film pretty much inconsequential. So what was actually good? Believe it or not, there were good parts in this film. I did not think The Rise of Skywalker was a terrible film. I did not think it was the worst of the Star Wars films. That's a topic for another episode. But it was also kind of frustrating. But yeah, it was there were good parts here, and actually my good parts were when we got Kylo Ren and Rey interactions, from their lightsaber duel in the ocean to their team up against Palpatine and their Force-speaking connections. I thought each of those were really cool. All of them were just went all in on the dynamic between these two characters, which we get a little bit of a romantic side at the very end, which I don't know how romantic that kiss was, but every time they interact with each other was must watch in this movie, or something you just put your full focus on, because they had Adam Driver and Daisy Ridley had really good chemistry with the duel and the team up and speaking to each other through the wild Force things when they were in different areas of the galaxy. It was all cool. So essentially, breaking down from all this, what was the point of The Rise of Skywalker? Even though things felt inconsequential, was to establish Rey's actual bloodline. And we get that, but we get the true moral of the story, that she is just Skywalker, as she says in the last line. one of the last lines of the film when she says she's Rey Skywalker. So despite everything she went through with Palpatine, despite Kylo Ren dying to save Rey's life, we get at the very end that it's just Rey is a Palpatine, but she just wants to be a Skywalker and move on with her life. That's the Rise of Skywalker. Thank you for watching, and please follow me at Real Rob Vulcan, and go subscribe to this channel below. We're going to probably do a few more film reviews from 2019, or maybe even some other ones from earlier this year, just because there's nothing going on right now. And there's only so much we can do on alternative topics. And we are going to do some alternative topics. We're going to look into the past a little bit, the much further past, like 10, 20, 30 years ago, perhaps. And yeah, we'll see where we go on that. Yeah. So, thanks for tuning in. And be safe, be well, and keep on watching those movies.